there is an unsettling trend of disenchantment and nihilism that seems to be spreading through every corner of society. Many people are increasingly disillusioned, overwhelmed by anxiety, and struggling to find a sense of purpose in their lives. This pervasive sense of hopelessness manifests in various ways. Some find themselves trapped in monotonous routines, feeling as though their actions lack meaning, while others grapple with a deep-seated despair, questioning whether anything truly matters. However, it is worth considering whether this state of despair is truly inevitable. Could it be that within this darkness lies the potential for a profound rediscovery of human value? The key may lie in the simple act of movement, of choosing to question the status quo, to reach out, and to reconnect with what makes us inherently human. There is an undeniable power in acknowledging our capacity for change, both within ourselves and in the world around us. When people take even the smallest steps towards reclaiming their purpose, the ripple effects can be transformative, not just for the individual, but for the community at large. I've seen this firsthand in my own experiences, particularly in the aftermath of the talks and workshops I've given. Often, people approach me afterward, their faces reflecting a mix of hope and hesitation, as they share how a single idea, a brief conversation, or a moment of clarity during the session sparked something within them. I remember one woman in particular, named Laura, who approached me after a workshop I conducted on finding purpose in the modern world. She had a soft, yet worn expression, the kind you see in someone who's been carrying a heavy burden for too long. Laura told me that she had been working in corporate finance for nearly 15 years, a field she had initially chosen for its stability and the promise of success. However, as the years passed, she found herself increasingly disenchanted, feeling like she was merely going through the motions, trapped in a cycle of long hours and high stress with little to show for it beyond a paycheck. She described how she often sat at her desk, staring at spreadsheets, and wondering if this was all life had to offer. During the workshop, I had posed a question to the group: what do you truly care about? It was a question meant to provoke thought, to cut through the noise of daily life and get to the heart of what really matters. Laura told me that this question struck her deeply. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to consider what she genuinely cared about, beyond the expectations of others and the pressures of her career. These encounters remind me time and again of the incredible potential each person holds. It is a powerful thing to witness, the way people can change their lives by shifting their perspective, by choosing to see not just the obstacles but the possibilities. It starts with the recognition that while the world can indeed be a challenging place, it is also full of opportunities for growth, connection, and fulfillment. The value of an individual is often underestimated in today's fast-paced world, where people are caught up in the demands of work, social obligations, and the constant barrage of external expectations. Yet, it is precisely this underestimation that leads to a cascade of negative consequences, both on a personal and societal level. When we fail to treat ourselves as if we matter, the repercussions are not just internal but ripple outwards, affecting our relationships, our communities, and ultimately, the fabric of society itself. One of the most critical aspects of self-care is recognizing the inherent risk of neglecting oneself. When a person continuously disregards their own needs and well-being, they become vulnerable to a deep sense of resentment. This resentment, whether conscious or subconscious, often manifests as cruelty towards oneself or others, and can lead to actions that are ultimately destructive. Consider the case of someone who, in the pursuit of success or approval, pushes themselves to the point of exhaustion, denying their own physical and emotional needs. Over time, this neglect can result in a kind of bitterness that seeps into every aspect of their life, turning into a generalized anger that can be directed at those around them. This anger might be expressed in harsh words, unreasonable demands, or even in more passive-aggressive behaviors that create a toxic environment, not just for the individual, but for everyone they interact with. The consequences of neglecting oneself extend beyond mere discomfort or dissatisfaction. When we do not treat ourselves with the respect and care we deserve, we invite suffering into our lives. This suffering can take many forms, from physical illness due to neglect of one's health, to emotional turmoil that arises from ignoring our mental and emotional needs. When we fail to care for ourselves, we also diminish our capacity to care for others, leading to a cycle of negativity that perpetuates itself. This is because a person who is suffering, who feels undervalued and unworthy, is less likely to engage positively with the world around them. They may withdraw, become cynical, or engage in behaviors that further isolate them from others. In this way, the neglect of self is not just an individual issue, but one that can have far-reaching consequences for society as a whole. In contrast, when we treat ourselves as if we matter, when we take the time to care for our physical, emotional, and mental well-being, we create a foundation for a more positive and fulfilling life. This self-care is not about indulgence or selfishness, but about recognizing our own value and ensuring that we are in a position to contribute meaningfully to the world around us. It is only when we are healthy, both physically and emotionally, that we can fully engage with others and contribute to the well-being of our communities. The value of healthy relationships cannot be overstated. When we treat others as if they are important, with integrity and care, we create the conditions for trust, mutual respect, and deep connection. These relationships, built on a foundation of honesty and kindness, are essential for a fulfilling life. They provide us with support in times of need, joy in times of celebration, and a sense of belonging that is fundamental to human happiness. However, when we fail to treat others well, when we engage in behaviors that are dishonest, unkind, or impulsive, we not only harm those relationships, but we also harm ourselves. Lies and betrayals create a web of deceit that is difficult to untangle, leading to a breakdown in trust and an erosion of the bonds that hold us together. The consequences of treating others poorly are profound. Impulsive actions, driven by selfish desires or a lack of consideration for others, can lead to a spiral of negative outcomes. These actions can damage relationships beyond repair, leading to isolation and loneliness. When we betray someone's trust, we not only hurt them, but we also damage our own integrity, making it harder to build and maintain relationships in the future. Over time, this pattern of behavior can lead to a life that is marked by a lack of meaningful connections, leaving us feeling isolated and disconnected from the world around us. This isolation is not just a personal tragedy, but a societal one. A society where people do not trust each other, where relationships are shallow and transactional, is one that is fragmented and weak. The strength of a society lies in the bonds between its members, in the trust and cooperation that allows for collective action and mutual support. When these bonds are broken, society as a whole suffers. We see this in the rise of social fragmentation, where communities are divided, and individuals feel increasingly isolated from one another. This isolation breeds distrust, which in turn leads to further fragmentation, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. However, there is hope. The recognition of human value is the foundation upon which a functional and prosperous society is built. When we operate from the belief that everyone matters, that every individual has intrinsic worth, we create a society that is inclusive, supportive, and strong. This belief is not just a lofty ideal, but one that has practical implications for how we structure our communities, our institutions, and our interactions with one another. Societies that embrace this belief tend to be more prosperous, not just in economic terms, but in terms of social cohesion and overall well-being. This is because when people feel valued, they are more likely to contribute positively to society, to engage in behaviors that support the common good, and to build relationships that are based on trust and mutual respect. The evidence for this is all around us. Societies that prioritize human dignity, that ensure the basic needs of their citizens are met, and that foster a culture of respect and inclusion, tend to be more stable and prosperous. This is not just a matter of morality, but of practicality. When people are treated well, they are more likely to be productive, to engage in civic life, and to contribute to the overall well-being of society. Conversely, when people are treated poorly, when they are marginalized or excluded, society as a whole suffers. This is why it is so important to recognize the value of each individual and to ensure that our actions, both on a personal and societal level, reflect this recognition. In practice, this means that we must take care of ourselves, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of those around us. It means that we must engage in relationships with integrity and care, treating others as if they matter, because they do. And it means that we must work to build a society that values all its members, that recognizes the worth of every individual, and that strives to create the conditions for everyone to thrive. This is not an easy task. It requires a shift in mindset, a commitment to seeing ourselves and others in a new light, and a willingness to take action to create the kind of world we want to live in. But it is a task that is worth undertaking, because the rewards are profound. When we treat ourselves and others with the respect and care we deserve, we create a world that is more just, more compassionate, and more fulfilling. We create a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a life of meaning and purpose, where the value of each individual is recognized and celebrated, and where society as a whole can prosper. The path of personal responsibility is one that demands courage and conviction, especially in the face of suffering. In a world where it's easy to slip into a mindset of victimization, where challenges are seen as unfair burdens rather than opportunities for growth, the choice to take responsibility can be transformative. This idea is not new, it echoes through the ages, from the wisdom of ancient texts to the stories we tell ourselves today. In the Old Testament, for example, characters frequently encounter profound suffering, and their responses to these hardships often determine the course of their lives. Instead of blaming fate or succumbing to despair, many of these figures embrace their challenges, taking on the responsibility to change their circumstances. This act of embracing responsibility, rather than assigning blame, is what makes them heroic. Consider the story of Job, a man who faced immense suffering yet chose to remain steadfast in his faith and personal integrity. Job's story is a profound example of how taking responsibility for one's reactions, even in the face of unjust suffering, can lead to personal growth and ultimate redemption. Job refused to curse his fate or blame others for his misfortunes. Instead, he embraced his suffering, asking himself how he could remain true to his values despite the overwhelming pain. This attitude of personal responsibility is not about denying the reality of suffering but about recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond to it. The strength of character that emerges from assuming responsibility cannot be understated. It is this mindset, that personal problems can be overcome with more preparation and less resentment, that allows individuals to rise above their circumstances. When someone chooses to adopt this attitude, they are essentially deciding to take control of their life, to view obstacles as something that can be managed, if not entirely overcome. This perspective shifts the focus from what is wrong with the world to what can be done differently. It's a powerful way to approach life, one that emphasizes growth, learning, and the belief that change is possible. In contrast, the opposite approach, inaction, can be incredibly destructive. The refusal to take responsibility, to act in the face of challenges, is often the root of many personal and societal problems. When faced with difficulties, choosing to do nothing can create a cycle of deterioration. Problems that are not addressed tend to grow, festering and multiplying, leading to a decline that is hard to reverse. This inaction not only affects the individual, who becomes increasingly powerless as their challenges mount, but also has broader social implications. A society in which individuals fail to take action is one that risks stagnation, where progress is stifled, and issues that could have been resolved with timely intervention spiral out of control. This concept of inaction is vividly illustrated in the story of King David and his son Absalom. David, a king and father, chose to ignore the growing tension between his children after a tragic incident involving his daughter Tamar. His inaction, driven by fear and avoidance, allowed resentment to fester, leading to a rebellion that tore apart his kingdom and family. David's failure to address the issue head-on resulted in a cycle of violence and betrayal that could have been avoided had he taken responsibility and acted decisively. This story is a powerful reminder of the dangers of inaction and the far-reaching consequences it can have, not just on an individual but on entire communities. The decline that results from inaction is often gradual but relentless. It starts with small, seemingly inconsequential decisions, putting off a difficult conversation, avoiding a challenging task, or refusing to confront a problem head-on. Over time, these choices accumulate, leading to a significant erosion of personal strength and capability. the individual becomes trapped in a cycle of avoidance, where the fear of failure or discomfort outweighs the potential benefits of action. As their problems grow, so too does their sense of helplessness, leading to a state of paralysis where even the smallest tasks can seem insurmountable. This decline is not just about the immediate challenges at hand but also about the long-term consequences of failing to act. The person who once had the potential to overcome their difficulties now finds themselves overwhelmed by them, their capacity for action diminished by the very inaction that was supposed to protect them from discomfort. The consequences of inaction are not limited to the individual. When many people in a community or society choose to remain passive in the face of challenges, the result is a collective decline. Problems that could have been addressed with timely action grow into crises. Consider the global challenges we face today: climate change, economic inequality, social injustice. Many of these issues have been allowed to escalate because of a collective failure to act decisively when the warning signs first appeared. Each individual's choice to ignore the problem contributes to a larger societal inertia, where change becomes increasingly difficult, if not impossible. But there is a way out of this cycle, and it lies in the courage to act correctly, even when the risks are high. Taking action in the face of obstacles requires a certain level of bravery, as it often involves making difficult decisions and facing the unknown. However, these actions are crucial for setting one's life on a better course. The willingness to engage with challenges, to take on the risks associated with change, is what allows individuals to correct their paths and move towards a more fulfilling and successful life. A clear example of this can be seen in the story of Esther, a queen who risked her life to save her people. Faced with the knowledge that her people were in danger, Esther could have chosen inaction out of fear for her own safety. Instead, she chose to act, using her position and influence to confront the king and plead for her people's lives. Her courage to act, despite the potential consequences, not only saved her people but also solidified her place as a hero in history. Esther's story illustrates the power of taking responsibility and the profound impact that one person's actions can have on the lives of many. The importance of taking action cannot be overstated. When faced with a difficult situation, the decision to act, rather than remain passive, can make all the difference. This is not to say that every action will lead to success. Failure is always a possibility, but even failure can be a valuable learning experience. What matters is the willingness to engage, to try, and to persist in the face of adversity. This courage to act, to make decisions that involve moderate risks, is what separates those who overcome their challenges from those who are consumed by them. On the other hand, the failure to act often has dire consequences. Problems that are ignored do not go away, they grow, becoming more complex and more difficult to resolve. The longer one waits to address an issue, the more daunting it becomes, and the more likely it is to spiral out of control. This can lead to a situation where the individual feels overwhelmed, unable to cope with the sheer magnitude of their problems. At this point, even taking the smallest step towards resolution can seem impossible, as the person's capacity for action has been eroded by their prolonged inaction. This failure to act also has a cumulative effect on an individual's ability to face future challenges. Each time a person avoids taking action, they diminish their own sense of agency. Over time, this can lead to a profound sense of powerlessness, where the individual feels incapable of influencing the course of their own life. This is a dangerous state to be in, as it can lead to a cycle of passivity, where the person becomes increasingly disengaged from their own life, allowing problems to build until they are completely overwhelmed. The courage to act is therefore essential not only for overcoming immediate challenges but also for maintaining the ability to face future obstacles. It is through action that individuals build their strength and resilience, developing the skills and confidence needed to tackle whatever life throws at them. Each time a person takes action, even in the face of fear or uncertainty, they reinforce their own sense of competence and control. This creates a positive feedback loop, where each successful action builds the confidence needed to take on even greater challenges in the future. Imagine someone who, despite their fear of failure, decides to start their own business. The risks are significant. They could lose money, face rejection, or even fail entirely. But by taking the plunge, they learn valuable lessons about resilience, adaptability, and problem solving. Even if the business doesn't succeed, the experience gained is invaluable and can be applied to future endeavors. This person's courage to act, despite the risks, strengthens their ability to handle future challenges with greater confidence and skill. The path of personal responsibility is one that requires continuous action. It is not enough to take responsibility once and then rest on one's laurels. It is a daily commitment to engaging with life, to facing challenges head-on, and to taking the necessary steps to create a better future. This path is not always easy, but it is the only way to truly overcome the suffering that life inevitably brings. By taking responsibility for our own lives, by refusing to be passive in the face of challenges, we can create a life that is not only more fulfilling but also more resilient, capable of withstanding whatever difficulties may come our way. In the end, it is this commitment to action, to responsibility, that defines a truly successful life. It is the willingness to face suffering, to embrace the challenges that life presents, and to take the steps necessary to overcome them. This is the path of personal responsibility, and it is a path that leads not only to individual success but also to a stronger, more resilient society. When each person commits to taking responsibility for their actions and their life, the collective strength of society increases. This is how communities grow stronger, how societies prosper, and how individuals find true fulfillment and purpose. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Your subscription helps us keep creating content with love and dedication. In modern psychology, self-esteem has become a cornerstone of mental health, often touted as the key to a happy and successful life. However, the popular approach to self-esteem, emphasizing its unconditional nature, has created a myth that can be detrimental to personal growth and fulfillment. The idea that we should constantly affirm our worth without regard to our actions or achievements encourages complacency, allowing people to avoid the discomfort necessary for genuine self-improvement. By placing too much emphasis on feeling good about oneself, regardless of circumstances, we risk neglecting the hard work and self-honesty required to truly improve our lives. It's a difficult truth to accept, but facing the reality of our shortcomings is essential for growth. When people are confronted with the truth about their flaws, it often generates a deep sense of discomfort, even pain. This discomfort is a natural response to the realization that change is necessary, and it can be an important catalyst for action. Yet, in a culture that often prioritizes self-esteem over self-awareness, there is a tendency to shy away from these uncomfortable truths, to soothe the discomfort rather than confront it. This avoidance can lead to stagnation, where individuals continue to affirm their worth without addressing the underlying issues that prevent them from achieving real fulfillment. The modern emphasis on self-esteem can sometimes lead people to believe that they are already good enough, just as they are, without the need for further effort or growth. While it's important to recognize our intrinsic value, it's equally important to acknowledge that we all have room for improvement. This recognition doesn't diminish our worth, rather, it provides the foundation for genuine self-esteem, one that is earned through the process of overcoming challenges and developing our potential. Real self-esteem arises not from empty affirmations, but from the satisfaction of knowing that we have faced our difficulties head-on and emerged stronger on the other side. The discomfort of confronting our flaws is, in fact, a necessary step on the path to personal fulfillment. It is through this discomfort that we are able to see ourselves clearly and understand what needs to change. By accepting that we are not yet the best version of ourselves, we open the door to growth and transformation. This acceptance requires humility, the ability to look at ourselves honestly and acknowledge our failures without becoming overwhelmed by them. It's a process that demands courage, as it involves stepping into the unknown and taking responsibility for our own improvement. Acknowledging our flaws can be a humbling experience, but it also brings hope. When we see ourselves as we truly are, imperfect, but capable of growth, we begin to understand that we have the power to change our circumstances. This realization is the first step toward personal fulfillment. It shifts the focus from external validation to internal development, from a need to feel good about ourselves to a desire to become better. It's a shift that transforms self-esteem from a passive state of being to an active process of becoming. One of the most powerful aspects of human nature is our potential for growth. We are not static beings, destined to remain the same throughout our lives. Instead, we are capable of profound transformation, of rising above our current circumstances to achieve something greater. This potential is what makes the journey of self-improvement so rewarding. When we accept our flaws as a starting point rather than a permanent state, we unlock the possibility of becoming the person we aspire to be. The process of self-improvement begins with the recognition that our current state is far from ideal. This recognition, though uncomfortable, is a crucial step in the journey toward personal fulfillment. It's what motivates us to take action, to strive for something better. Rather than being discouraged by our imperfections, we can view them as opportunities for growth. Each failure, each shortcoming, is a chance to learn, to adapt, and to move closer to our goals. For example, consider someone who has always struggled with procrastination. They might be tempted to reassure themselves that they are doing their best and that it's okay to put things off. However, this approach only serves to perpetuate the problem. Instead, if they confront the truth, that their procrastination is holding them back from reaching their full potential, they can begin to take steps to address it. This might involve setting smaller, more manageable goals, seeking support from others, or developing better time management skills. The point is that by accepting their current state as a problem, they can start the process of change. This process is not easy, and it often requires us to face difficult truths about ourselves. But it's through this process that we grow stronger and more capable. As we begin to make progress, we experience a sense of accomplishment that is far more satisfying than any external validation could provide. This is the essence of true self-esteem, knowing that we have faced our challenges and overcome them. It's an internal sense of worth that is grounded in reality, not in wishful thinking. The hope in this process of transformation lies in the understanding that no matter how far we are from our ideal, there is always a path forward. We are not condemned to remain in our current state. We have the power to change, to grow, and to become better versions of ourselves. This hope is what drives us to keep striving, to keep pushing ourselves to improve. It's what allows us to move from a place of suffering to a place of fulfillment, from a state of dissatisfaction to one of genuine contentment. This journey of self-improvement is not about reaching a final destination, it's about continuous growth. It's about recognizing that we are always in the process of becoming, that there is always more to learn and more ways to grow. This understanding keeps us humble, but it also keeps us motivated. It reminds us that the path to personal fulfillment is one of constant evolution, of never settling for less than we are capable of achieving. In this way, self-esteem and personal fulfillment are deeply interconnected. True self-esteem comes from the knowledge that we are actively working to improve ourselves, that we are not content to remain where we are but are always striving for something greater. Personal fulfillment, in turn, is the result of this continuous effort, the satisfaction of knowing that we are living up to our potential. It's a dynamic process, one that requires ongoing commitment and effort, but one that ultimately leads to a deeper sense of happiness and fulfillment. As we navigate this path, it's important to remember that growth is not linear. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way, moments when we feel like we're not making progress or that we're even moving backward. But these moments are just as important as the victories, for they teach us resilience and perseverance. They remind us that the journey of self-improvement is not about perfection, but about progress. The myth of modern self-esteem, that we should always feel good about ourselves, regardless of our actions, is replaced by a more nuanced understanding. True self-esteem is not about avoiding discomfort or ignoring our flaws, it's about embracing the challenges of growth and striving to become the best version of ourselves. It's about finding fulfillment not in empty affirmations, but in the knowledge that we are capable of change and that we are actively working to improve our lives. This is the path to personal fulfillment, one that requires courage, effort, and a willingness to confront the truth, but one that offers the profound reward of a life well lived. In the vast landscape of human interaction, communication stands as a cornerstone of connection, understanding, and progress. Yet, In a world filled with endless chatter, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is a skill that often goes overlooked. The value of effective communication lies not only in what is said but in how it is received, and this hinges largely on the art of listening, both by the speaker and the listener. One of the most critical aspects of communication is recognizing when to stop speaking. There is a profound wisdom in knowing that not every word will fall on receptive ears, and not every conversation will lead to understanding. The old adage, "Don't cast pearls before swine," serves as a poignant reminder of the futility of trying to communicate with those who are unwilling or unable to listen. When words are met with closed minds or outright hostility, continuing to speak is not only fruitless but can also be damaging. It wastes energy that could be better spent on those who are open to dialogue, and it can lead to frustration, resentment, and a breakdown in relationships. This lesson is especially important in a world where opinions are often polarized, and discussions can quickly turn into debates, or worse, arguments. In such situations, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to force understanding, of believing that if we just explain ourselves better, the other person will finally see our point of view. But the truth is, communication is a two-way street. For a message to be truly received, there must be a willingness on the part of the listener to engage, to consider, and to respond thoughtfully. When this willingness is absent, no amount of explanation will bridge the gap. Understanding when to stop talking is not about giving up, it's about recognizing the limits of our influence and the importance of choosing our battles wisely. It's about saving our words for those who are ready to hear them, who are willing to engage in meaningful dialogue. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations, but rather knowing when to disengage from those that are unproductive or harmful. It's a matter of respecting both ourselves and others enough to recognize when communication has reached its limit. This principle of knowing when to speak and when to remain silent ties directly into the concept of true virtue. In a world that often equates virtue with harmlessness, it's important to draw a distinction between the two. Being harmless, lacking the ability to cause harm, is not the same as being virtuous. True virtue comes not from the absence of power but from the mastery of it. It is the choice to use one's power, not for selfish or destructive ends, but for the greater good. This idea is encapsulated in the concept of the controlled monster. The truly virtuous individual is not one who is incapable of causing harm, but one who has the capacity for power and chooses to wield it with wisdom and restraint. This distinction is crucial because it highlights the moral strength required to control one's darker impulses and use one's abilities in a way that benefits others rather than harms them. Mythological and cultural narratives are rich with examples of this controlled monster, figures who embody the balance between power and virtue. Take, for instance, the character of Harry Potter. Throughout J.K. Rowling's series, Harry is faced with numerous opportunities to use his considerable magical abilities for revenge or personal gain. Yet, time and again, he chooses the path of restraint, even when it would be easier, and perhaps more satisfying, to give in to his darker impulses. Harry's strength lies not in his ability to cause harm, but in his decision to use his power for good, to protect others and stand up against injustice. Similarly, Batman, as depicted in various comics and films, exemplifies this balance between power and control. Bruce Wayne, with his vast resources and physical prowess, could easily dominate Gotham City through fear and violence. However, he chooses to operate within a strict moral code, refusing to kill even those who seem to deserve it most. Batman's restraint is a testament to his true virtue. He understands that real strength lies in the ability to control one's power and use it in service of justice rather than personal vendetta. These characters resonate with us not because they are harmless, but because they embody the difficult balance between power and morality. They remind us that virtue is not about the absence of power but about the responsible and ethical use of it. In our own lives, we may not face battles against dark wizards or criminal masterminds, but we do encounter situations where we must choose how to wield the power we have, whether it's the power of our words, our influence, or our actions. The distinction between being harmless and being virtuous also has profound implications for how we view strength and weakness in ourselves and others. It's easy to mistake gentleness for weakness, to assume that those who choose not to assert their power are simply incapable of doing so. But true gentleness, true virtue, is a conscious choice, a deliberate decision to use one's strength in a way that builds up rather than tears down. It requires a deep understanding of oneself and a commitment to acting in alignment with one's values, even when it would be easier to take the path of least resistance. In practical terms, this means that we must be mindful of how we communicate and interact with others. Are we using our words to uplift, to inspire, to encourage? Or are we using them to dominate, to belittle, to control? Are we engaging in conversations that foster understanding and connection, or are we pushing our own agenda at the expense of meaningful dialogue? These are the questions that lie at the heart of effective communication and true virtue. At the same time, we must also recognize the importance of setting boundaries and knowing when to walk away. Just as it is virtuous to use our power wisely, it is also virtuous to protect our own well-being by disengaging from toxic or unproductive interactions. This doesn't mean avoiding conflict altogether, but rather choosing our battles with care and ensuring that our energy is directed towards situations where it can make a positive impact. The controlled monster within each of us represents our potential for both good and harm. By acknowledging this duality, we can better understand the importance of cultivating true virtue in our lives. It's not enough to be harmless, we must strive to be powerful in a way that is constructive and aligned with our deepest values. This requires ongoing self-reflection, a commitment to personal growth, and the courage to act in ways that may not always be easy or comfortable but are ultimately right. The journey towards effective communication and true virtue is one that requires both self-awareness and discipline. It involves knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to assert our power and when to hold back. It's about recognizing the impact of our words and actions and making conscious choices that reflect our commitment to living with integrity. By embracing these principles, we not only improve our relationships with others but also cultivate a sense of inner strength and peace that comes from knowing we are living in alignment with our highest ideals. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, the desire to create order becomes a natural response to the overwhelming complexity of life. But where does one begin in the face of such disorder? The answer, as simple as it may seem, lies in the metaphor of cleaning your room. This small, symbolic act represents far more than just tidying up a physical space. It reflects the process of imposing order on the chaos of life, one small step at a time. When we consider the task of cleaning our room, it might seem trivial or even insignificant. After all, how much impact could such a mundane activity have on the broader challenges we face? However, this act serves as a microcosm for a much larger process. By organizing our immediate environment, we are training ourselves to distinguish between order and chaos in all areas of our lives. It's not just about putting things in their proper place, it's about taking control of the one aspect of our world that we can immediately influence. This simple task becomes a practice ground for developing the skills needed to tackle larger, more complex problems. For instance, imagine someone whose life feels completely out of control. Perhaps they're overwhelmed by work, struggling in their personal relationships, and unsure of their future. In such a state, it's easy to feel paralyzed, unable to take any action because the problem seems so vast. But if this person starts by simply cleaning their room, they begin to exert a small amount of control over their environment. This act might involve organizing a cluttered desk, making the bed, or sorting through clothes that have been piling up for weeks. As they engage in this process, they're not just creating physical order, they're also cultivating a sense of agency, a belief that they can influence their surroundings and, by extension, their life. This seemingly minor victory can have a profound psychological impact. By taking charge of something as simple as a messy room, the individual begins to build confidence in their ability to bring order to other areas of their life. They start to see that chaos, no matter how overwhelming it appears, can be managed through small, deliberate actions. This mindset shift is crucial because it transforms the way they approach problems, no longer as insurmountable obstacles, but as challenges that can be broken down into manageable steps. The importance of small actions cannot be overstated. It's through these tasks, which might initially seem inconsequential, that we develop the ability to navigate the larger, more chaotic aspects of life. Each small victory in organizing our environment builds the skills and habits necessary to address the chaos that exists beyond our immediate surroundings. It teaches us discipline, focus, and perseverance, qualities that are essential for overcoming the more significant challenges we face. Moreover, this process of creating order in our environment is directly connected to the way we find meaning and purpose in life. The act of imposing order on chaos is not just about making our surroundings more pleasant, it's about aligning ourselves with a deeper sense of purpose. When we organize our space, we are, in a sense, creating a sanctuary, a place where we can think clearly, focus on our goals, and pursue what truly matters to us. This connection between external order and internal clarity is a powerful one, and it lays the foundation for a meaningful life. The concept of order versus chaos extends beyond the physical realm and into the psychological and emotional aspects of our lives. Just as we can bring order to a messy room, we can also bring order to our thoughts, emotions, and relationships. This process involves recognizing the areas of our lives that are in disarray and taking deliberate steps to address them. It might mean setting boundaries in a relationship that has become toxic, organizing our time more effectively to achieve our goals, or confronting a fear that has been holding us back. Each of these actions, like cleaning a room, requires us to face the chaos head-on and impose a sense of order on it. But why is this important? Why should we strive to bring order to chaos, whether in our physical environment or in our lives? The answer lies in the way our brains are wired. Human beings are driven by the pursuit of rewards, but not all rewards are created equal. Understanding the difference between consummatory rewards, those that satisfy immediate needs, like eating a meal, and incentive rewards, those that motivate us to pursue long-term goals, can provide insight into why order is so essential. Consummatory rewards are immediate and satisfying in the short term. They are the pleasures that come from satisfying basic needs and desires, such as hunger, thirst, or comfort. While these rewards are necessary for survival, they are fleeting and do not provide lasting fulfillment. On the other hand, incentive rewards are tied to the pursuit of goals that are meaningful and enduring. These rewards come from striving towards something greater than ourselves, something that gives our lives purpose and direction. The pursuit of a larger goal taps into a deeper, more profound aspect of our psychology. When we set and work towards meaningful goals, our brain's reward system is activated in a way that provides long-term motivation and satisfaction. This is why the act of creating order, whether in our room, our lives, or our minds, is so powerful. It aligns our actions with a larger purpose, creating a sense of meaning that sustains us even when the immediate rewards are not apparent. For example, imagine someone who has decided to pursue a challenging career goal, such as becoming a doctor. The road to this achievement is long and filled with obstacles, years of study, exams, and sacrifices. The rewards are not immediate, and there are many moments along the way where the person might be tempted to give up. However, the incentive reward of achieving this goal, of making a difference in people's lives, of fulfilling a lifelong dream, provides a powerful motivation that keeps them moving forward, even when the going gets tough. This connection between a larger goal and the brain's reward system highlights why it's so important to create order in our lives. By organizing our environment and our thoughts, we create the conditions that allow us to pursue these meaningful goals effectively. Without order, chaos reigns, and chaos is inherently demotivating. It leads to confusion, frustration, and a sense of helplessness, all of which can derail our efforts to achieve our goals. On the other hand, when we create order, we set the stage for success. We clear away the distractions, focus our energy, and channel our efforts towards what truly matters. This process not only helps us achieve our goals but also provides a deep sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. It's the difference between living a life that is reactive, constantly responding to the chaos around us, and living a life that is proactive, where we take charge of our destiny and pursue our dreams with purpose and intention. The magnitude of our goals also plays a crucial role in our motivation and satisfaction. When our goals are small and unambitious, the rewards we receive from achieving them are correspondingly small. However, when we set our sights on something truly meaningful, something that challenges us and requires us to grow, the rewards are much greater. This is because our brain's reward system is designed to respond to challenges. It's wired to push us towards overcoming obstacles and achieving something significant. Take, for instance, someone who sets a goal to run a marathon. The process of training for this event is grueling. It requires discipline, perseverance, and the ability to push through pain and fatigue. But the reward of crossing that finish line, of knowing that they've accomplished something that once seemed impossible, is immense. It's a reward that goes beyond the physical satisfaction of the run. It's a deep, psychological reward that comes from knowing they've achieved something meaningful. This is why it's so important to align our actions with larger goals, to create order in our lives that allows us to pursue these goals effectively. The act of cleaning our room, organizing our thoughts, and focusing our efforts is not just about creating a more pleasant environment, it's about setting ourselves up for success, for achieving the kind of goals that bring lasting fulfillment and meaning to our lives. Whether it's cleaning a room, organizing our time, or setting a meaningful goal, these actions create a foundation for success. They allow us to take control of our lives, to navigate the complexities of the world, and to pursue the kind of rewards that bring true satisfaction. By creating order, we align ourselves with our deeper purpose, tap into our brain's reward system, and set the stage for a life of meaning. In the pursuit of personal growth, the role of micro-habits often goes unnoticed, yet these small, consistent actions are the building blocks of significant change. The idea that small, daily victories can accumulate into major transformations is both empowering and practical. Establishing micro-habits allows individuals to make progress in a way that feels manageable and sustainable, rather than overwhelming. These small wins are not just about ticking off tasks on a to-do list, they are about increasing awareness and developing the discipline necessary for long-term growth. Consider, for example, someone who struggles with procrastination. The idea of overhauling their entire routine to become more productive might seem daunting, if not impossible. However, if they start with a micro-habit, such as committing to working for just 5 minutes on a task they've been avoiding, they begin to build momentum. This small action is significant because it's not just about completing a task, it's about proving to themselves that they have control over their actions. Each time they follow through on this micro-habit, they are reinforcing a sense of discipline and mastery over their behavior. These small victories also serve to increase awareness. When you commit to a micro-habit, such as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning or writing a single sentence in a journal each day, you become more attuned to the effects of these actions on your overall well-being and productivity. This heightened awareness allows you to see the impact of your choices more clearly, which in turn motivates you to continue making positive decisions. The discipline required to maintain these micro-habits begins to permeate other areas of your life, creating a ripple effect of positive change. The power of repetition in building discipline cannot be overstated. By consistently practicing small habits, you are training your brain to recognize and respond to certain cues, making these actions automatic over time. This process is essential for creating a more organized and productive mindset. For example, if you establish a micro-habit of spending just 5 minutes each evening organizing your workspace, you will likely find that over time, this habit expands naturally. You might start organizing for 10 or 15 minutes without even thinking about it, and the benefits will extend beyond a tidy desk. A clear workspace often leads to a clearer mind, better focus, and increased productivity. These micro-habits also help to build resilience. When you face challenges, the discipline you've cultivated through these small, consistent actions becomes a resource you can draw upon. It's not just about the habits themselves, but about the mindset they create, a mindset that is organized, disciplined, and capable of handling the unexpected. This foundation of discipline is what allows individuals to take on more significant challenges with confidence, knowing that they have built the necessary skills and habits to succeed. The importance of setting clear goals cannot be separated from the process of establishing micro-habits. While micro-habits are about small, daily actions, their effectiveness is greatly enhanced when they are aligned with specific, clear goals. Without clear goals, these habits may lose direction and purpose, leading to stagnation rather than growth. The necessity of specifying objectives becomes apparent when we consider how easily we can become lost without a clear sense of direction. When personal goals are vague, it's difficult to measure progress or maintain motivation. For instance, a goal like "I want to be healthier" is admirable, but it lacks specificity. What does being healthier look like? Does it mean losing weight, eating more vegetables, exercising regularly, or all of the above? Without clear, specific goals, it's easy to become discouraged because progress is hard to track. On the other hand, a goal like "I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 3 months by exercising 3 times a week and eating more whole foods" is specific, measurable, and actionable. This clarity provides a roadmap, making it easier to establish the micro-habits that will lead to success. Many people avoid setting specific goals because they fear failure. The idea of failing at a vague goal is less intimidating than the possibility of falling short of a clearly defined one. This avoidance, however, is a trap. By not setting clear goals, individuals deny themselves the opportunity to achieve something tangible. They may protect themselves from the sting of failure, but they also miss out on the satisfaction that comes from making real progress. The fear of failure should not prevent us from striving towards specific goals. Rather, it should be a motivator to refine our approach, to learn from setbacks, and to continue moving forward. When goals are clear, the path to achieving them becomes more apparent. This clarity helps to break down larger objectives into smaller, more manageable steps, micro-habits that can be practiced daily. For example, if someone's goal is to write a book, that goal might initially seem overwhelming. However, by breaking it down into smaller steps, such as writing 500 words a day or spending 30 minutes each morning on research, the task becomes more manageable. These micro-habits, when consistently practiced, lead to the completion of larger goals. Moreover, the discipline required to maintain micro-habits in pursuit of clear goals fosters a sense of accountability. When you set a specific goal and establish the micro-habits needed to achieve it, you are making a commitment to yourself. This commitment is not just about reaching the goal, it's about developing the character and discipline required to follow through on your intentions. This sense of accountability strengthens over time, reinforcing your ability to set and achieve future goals. One of the key challenges in setting clear goals and establishing micro-habits is the temptation to take on too much at once. It's easy to become enthusiastic about self-improvement and set multiple goals, each with its own set of micro-habits. However, this approach can quickly lead to burnout. It's important to remember that the purpose of micro-habits is to make progress manageable and sustainable. Starting with just 1 or 2 micro-habits related to a specific goal is often the most effective approach. As these habits become ingrained, additional habits can be introduced, gradually building momentum without overwhelming yourself. The fear of setting specific goals and facing failure is understandable, but it's essential to recognize that failure is not the enemy. In fact, failure is often a critical component of growth. When we fail, we gain valuable insights into what doesn't work, which helps us refine our approach. The key is to view failure not as a final verdict, but as a stepping stone towards success. Each setback provides an opportunity to reassess, adjust, and continue moving forward with renewed focus and determination. Micro-habits play a crucial role in this process by providing a framework for consistent action, even in the face of setbacks. When a larger goal seems out of reach, returning to the basics, those small, daily actions, can help to rebuild momentum. These habits serve as a foundation that remains steady, even when progress towards the larger goal stalls. This resilience is what ultimately leads to success, as it allows individuals to continue making progress, even when the path is difficult. The discipline developed through micro-habits also helps to counteract the fear of failure. When you've built a habit of taking small, consistent actions towards your goals, failure becomes less daunting. You know that you can always return to the basics, reassess, and continue moving forward. This mindset shift, from fearing failure to embracing the process, fosters a more resilient, growth-oriented approach to life. The development of micro-habits is a powerful tool for personal growth and awareness. These small, consistent actions build discipline, increase awareness, and create a foundation for achieving larger goals. By setting clear, specific goals and aligning micro-habits with these objectives, individuals can overcome the fear of failure and make meaningful progress in their lives. The journey of personal growth is not about grand gestures or sudden transformations, it's about the small, daily actions that accumulate over time, leading to lasting change and fulfillment. Our actions resonate far beyond our immediate surroundings, and the impact of the individual has never been more significant. The power of a single person's choices and actions can ripple through a network of connections, influencing not just friends and family but potentially millions of others. This phenomenon, often referred to as the butterfly effect, underscores the profound influence each person holds within their social network. It's a reminder that our actions, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, contribute to the larger fabric of society. The idea that one person's behavior can create a domino effect is both empowering and daunting. When we act with integrity, kindness, or courage, these actions often inspire others to do the same. For example, consider the simple act of showing kindness to a stranger. This small gesture can brighten that person's day, potentially leading them to treat others with more kindness as well. This chain reaction can spread through countless interactions, each one amplifying the initial act of goodwill. Conversely, negative actions, such as acts of cruelty or dishonesty, can also spread, sowing distrust and discord. The interconnectivity of human actions means that every choice we make has the potential to shape the world around us in significant ways. The power of individual influence is magnified in today's digital age, where social media connects us to millions of people around the globe. A single tweet, post, or video can go viral, reaching far beyond the initial audience. This amplification of individual actions highlights the importance of considering the broader implications of our choices. What we say, share, or endorse online can have lasting impacts, not only on our personal lives but also on the lives of countless others. It's a reminder that with this connectivity comes a greater responsibility to act thoughtfully and with awareness of the potential consequences. One poignant example of this influence can be seen in social movements that have gained momentum through the actions of a few dedicated individuals. Movements such as #MeToo, Black Lives Matter, and climate activism started with a handful of voices but quickly grew into global phenomena. These movements illustrate how individual actions, whether sharing a personal story, organizing a protest, or raising awareness, can galvanize millions, leading to significant social and political change. Each of these movements began with people who chose to speak out, to take responsibility for addressing injustices, and to use their influence to make a difference. This leads us to the critical choice that each individual faces, the decision between living a life of meaning and responsibility or succumbing to the temptations of nihilism, a life devoid of meaning and burdened by the belief that nothing truly matters. This choice is at the heart of the human experience, and it's one that each person must confront at various points in their life. Nihilism, in its simplest form, is the belief that life has no inherent meaning, purpose, or value. It's a philosophy that can be both alluring and destructive. On the one hand, nihilism offers an escape from the burdens of responsibility. If nothing truly matters, then we are free to do as we please without concern for the consequences. But this freedom is illusory. A life without responsibility, without purpose, often leads to a deep sense of emptiness and despair. The absence of meaning creates a void that is difficult to fill, leading to a cycle of apathy and disengagement. On the other hand, the choice to embrace responsibility brings with it the possibility of a meaningful life. Responsibility is not just a burden, it is also a source of purpose and fulfillment. When we take responsibility for our actions, our relationships, and our impact on the world, we begin to see ourselves as active participants in shaping the future. This sense of agency is empowering, giving us a reason to strive, to grow, and to contribute to something larger than ourselves. The choice between nihilism and responsibility is not an easy one. Responsibility can be daunting because it requires us to confront the reality that our actions matter, that what we do has consequences not only for ourselves but for others. This awareness can be both terrifying and liberating. It's terrifying because it forces us to acknowledge the weight of our choices, to recognize that we cannot simply drift through life without direction. But it is also liberating because it gives our lives meaning. When we accept responsibility, we take control of our destiny, and in doing so, we find purpose and direction. For many, the fear of responsibility stems from the fear of failure. Taking responsibility means accepting that we might make mistakes, that we might not always succeed. But failure is an integral part of growth. It's through our failures that we learn, adapt, and ultimately become stronger. The price of responsibility is the risk of failure, but the reward is a life filled with meaning and purpose. It's the difference between a life lived passively, at the mercy of external forces, and a life actively shaped by our own choices and actions. An illustrative example of the impact of taking responsibility can be seen in the life of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. In his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl describes how even in the most horrific circumstances of the concentration camps, he found that those who were able to find meaning in their suffering were the ones most likely to survive. Frankl's experience underscores the idea that meaning and responsibility are deeply intertwined. He argued that we must find meaning in our lives, even in the face of suffering, and that this meaning often comes from the responsibilities we choose to accept. Frankl's philosophy, which he called logotherapy, is based on the belief that the primary drive in human beings is the search for meaning. According to Frankl, we find meaning through our work, our relationships, and our attitudes towards suffering. This search for meaning is what gives life its richness and depth, and it is closely tied to the responsibilities we choose to take on. By embracing responsibility, we embrace the possibility of a meaningful life. The price of responsibility, therefore, is not just the weight of the duties we accept, but also the recognition that our lives are significant. This significance is both a gift and a challenge. It's a gift because it means that we have the power to make a difference, to shape our own lives and the world around us. But it's also a challenge because it requires us to be vigilant, to constantly strive to live up to our potential, and to face the consequences of our actions. This challenge can be overwhelming, especially in a world where the pressures and demands of life can seem insurmountable. But it is precisely in facing these challenges that we find our strength. Responsibility is not a burden to be avoided but a path to be embraced. It is through responsibility that we discover what we are truly capable of, and it is through responsibility that we find our place in the world. The social impact of the individual is profound, extending far beyond the immediate effects of our actions. Each choice we make, each responsibility we accept, contributes to the larger network of human influence. By embracing responsibility, we not only find meaning in our own lives but also contribute to the well-being and progress of society as a whole. The decision to live a life of meaning and responsibility is not always easy, but it is a choice that ultimately leads to a deeper sense of purpose. The 20th century stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise when individuals and societies adopt pathological ways of living. The atrocities committed under totalitarian regimes like Nazi Germany, Stalinist Russia, and Maoist China serve as grim examples of what can happen when truth and responsibility are abandoned in favor of ideology, power, and control. These regimes, driven by distorted worldviews and led by individuals who were often profoundly disconnected from reality, unleashed destruction on a scale previously unimaginable. The lives lost, the culture shattered, and the human potential wasted all underscore the peril of living a life, or constructing a society, rooted in pathology. One of the key elements that allowed these regimes to perpetrate such horrors was the widespread abandonment of honesty. When leaders and citizens alike engage in deceit, whether through outright lies or by willfully ignoring uncomfortable truths, the stage is set for catastrophic outcomes. The totalitarian states of the 20th century thrived on lies. Propaganda was used not just to misinform but to shape reality itself, creating a world where objective truth was subservient to the whims of those in power. In such environments, individuals were coerced or incentivized to betray their own sense of right and wrong, often resulting in a society where cruelty became normalized, and atrocities were carried out in the name of a twisted sense of righteousness. The horrors of the 20th century are a testament to the destructive power of a pathological life, both on an individual and societal level. When truth is sacrificed, when responsibility is shirked, the result is a life that is disconnected from the reality of human suffering and the intrinsic value of every individual. In such a life, people become means to an end, and the pursuit of power or ideological purity takes precedence over compassion, empathy, and genuine human connection. One of the most profound lessons we can draw from the 20th century is the necessity of grounding our lives in truth and responsibility. To avoid repeating the mistakes of the past, we must commit ourselves to honesty, both with ourselves and with others. This commitment involves a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge our own flaws and limitations, and to take responsibility for our actions and their consequences. It is not enough to simply recognize the dangers of a pathological life. We must actively work to live in a way that is aligned with truth, integrity, and responsibility. This journey towards truth and responsibility is not easy. It requires courage, the courage to face our own vulnerabilities, to admit when we are wrong, and to strive for personal growth despite the challenges we may encounter. However, it is precisely this journey that allows us to overcome the existential suffering that is an inherent part of the human condition. By embracing our vulnerabilities and committing to a life of noble purpose, we can rise above the despair and nihilism that often accompany a life disconnected from truth and responsibility. The path to overcoming a pathological life is not one of sudden transformation, but of continuous, incremental growth. It begins with small acts of honesty, being truthful with ourselves about our fears, our weaknesses, and our desires. It continues with the gradual acceptance of responsibility, not only for our own lives but for the impact our actions have on others. Each step forward in this journey strengthens our character, builds our resilience, and deepens our understanding of what it means to live a meaningful life. One of the most transformative aspects of this journey is the way it empowers us to face our fears. Fear is often at the root of pathological behavior: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. These fears can drive us to engage in deception, to avoid taking responsibility, and to cling to beliefs that are comforting but ultimately untrue. However, when we confront these fears head-on, we begin to see them for what they are: barriers to our growth and fulfillment. By facing our fears, we begin to dismantle the pathological patterns that hold us back. This process is not easy. It often involves confronting painful truths about ourselves and the world around us. But it is through this confrontation that we find the strength to move forward. As we face our fears and take responsibility for our lives, we become stronger, more resilient, and more capable of living a life that is true to our values and aspirations. The power of personal growth is evident in the stories of those who have overcome great adversity by embracing truth and responsibility. Consider the example of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison for his opposition to apartheid in South Africa. During his imprisonment, Mandela faced immense suffering and had every reason to succumb to bitterness and hatred. However, instead of allowing his circumstances to dictate his life, Mandela chose to embrace truth and responsibility. He used his time in prison to reflect on his own beliefs, to strengthen his resolve, and to prepare for the day when he could lead his country towards reconciliation and justice. Mandela's commitment to truth and responsibility not only transformed his own life but also helped to heal a nation divided by decades of racial injustice. Mandela's story is a powerful reminder of the transformative impact that personal growth and responsibility can have, not just on our own lives, but on the world around us. When we commit to living a life of truth and responsibility, we not only overcome our own suffering, but we also contribute to the greater good. We become agents of positive change, capable of making a meaningful difference in the lives of others. The journey towards truth and responsibility is not without its challenges. It requires us to constantly strive for honesty, to take responsibility for our actions, and to embrace the vulnerability that comes with acknowledging our limitations. However, the rewards of this journey far outweigh the difficulties. By living a life rooted in truth and responsibility, we can overcome the dangers of a pathological existence and create a life that is rich with meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. By grounding our lives in truth and responsibility, we can avoid the destructive patterns that have led to so much suffering in the past. The path to overcoming a pathological life is one of continuous personal growth, where we face our fears, embrace our vulnerabilities, and commit to living a life of noble purpose. This journey is challenging, but it is also deeply rewarding, offering us the opportunity to live a life that is truly meaningful and impactful. The path of responsibility and personal transformation is one that requires courage, self-awareness, and a commitment to conscious action. Each of us holds the power to shape our lives, to overcome the challenges we face, and to grow into the best versions of ourselves. By taking responsibility for our actions and choices, we not only improve our own lives but also contribute to the well-being of those around us. As we grow and transform, we contribute to the strength and well-being of our communities. The positive impact of one person taking responsibility can inspire others to do the same, leading to a ripple effect that can uplift society as a whole. In a world that often feels chaotic, this personal commitment to growth and responsibility is more important than ever. It's through our individual efforts that we help build a better, more connected world, one step at a time. Thank you for sticking with us until the end. Your likes and subscription are very important to us. Help us keep the Books Project alive and continue delivering high-quality content. Wishing you peace, and see you next time.